Download the AllStar app. Make your picks for UFC fights, challenge your friends, level up and win prizes. Link in description. Get it now.
This weekend, it comes so fast, right? That's what she said. UFC 301 in Brazil. It will be in Rio de Janeiro, right? The main event is Alexandre. Is it Alexandre or Alexander? I forgot. But Alexandre Pantoja, the cannibal, versus Steve Erceg, Astro Boy. What the hell is going on with these names? I don't know, but yes, if you're going to go off names and by looks, you would pick Pantoja to win because his name is the cannibal, and he just looks like a 15th century Three Musketeer pirate if you look at him. And if he wore one of those suits,
bringing out that
exactly, he looks kind of like look, he kind of looks like Hook, the captain from Hook, right? If you put the dress on him, right?
Yeah.
Not dress, but
I know
whatever. But then you got Steve Erceg, the Astro Boy, who, man, speaking of coming out of nowhere, right? And speaking of eternal producing talent and getting them all the way to a title shot in the UFC. Steve Erceg is the guy. Very unassuming, they were showing some pictures today from the face-offs, right? Mm-hmm. And he's wearing like a blue polo shirt, right? Just plain blue polo shirt. And, there's a store called Best Buy in America. Have you been there?
Yeah, I've been to Best Buy.
And they all wear what color shirt at Best Buy? The blue shirts, right?
Yeah.
And everybody was saying online that he looked like a Best Buy employee fighting for the UFC title.
Coming out from work.
Yeah, that's what they say. Just look at Steve Erceg coming out from work. But anyways, the odds, right? The odds are minus 250 in favor of the champion Pantoja versus plus 200 moderate underdog for Steve Erceg. So let's jump into Steve Erceg and his UFC history. That's what I like to do.
He's had 3 fights, yeah?
Let's see. He's had 3 fights, yes. His total record, 12-1. He's 28 years old. Australia, 7-fight win streak, 3-0 in the UFC. He's beaten David Dvorak, who was ranked in his debut, UFC 289. And then he went to another UFC pay-per-view, 295, beat Alexandre Costa. And then in his last fight, he knocked out Matt Schnell, who was ranked. So he went from ranked, Costa, I think he was unranked, to another ranked guy, Schnell. Beat 3 guys in a row. The opportunity comes for him to fight for the title because I feel like the other guys that were ahead of him, some of them were injured. Some of them were maybe...
Well, some were injured and some have already lost to Pantoja.
Yeah, and they're already scheduled or something like that. So for Erceg, he comes in. I'm picking Erceg to win this fight.
Oh, yeah?
I think he's such an underdog, and the story is just so phenomenal. I have to just ride with the story. And another thing is I've been watching Erceg for a while, since his eternal days in Australia. And I've interviewed him in the past as well, outside of the UFC. So I've known him. The guy is a ground specialist. Pantoja is a ground specialist.
Yeah.
Pantoja is a guy that likes to march forward and throw haymakers for 5 rounds, right? Steve Erceg can also do that. But he also can get to the ground if he needs to, and he can compete on the ground with Pantoja. I think, Pantoja's been around for much longer, has way more fights. But I think at this moment, Steve Erceg is going to be able to weaponize things that Pantoja is going to do, and he's going to take his opportunities when Pantoja makes mistakes. And I think in a lot of the fights, especially the last couple, Pantoja made a lot of mistakes. Just the guys that were competing against him weren't able to take advantage of it. Either they were just too tired, too beat up, whatever it was. They just couldn't take advantage of it. I think Steve Erceg is going to be able to match all of that and win this fight. I think it's going to be a finish. I think Steve Erceg gets finished or finishes the fight.
Okay.
But I'm pushing more towards Erceg. I don't know why. The story just lines up perfectly. And it's just like, that whole thing about what is it? picking at the lowest branch. What was that expression?
Oh,
The low hanging fruit.
the low, yeah, the low.
So it's almost like Pantoja is taking the low hanging fruit, which he thinks is the low hanging fruit, and going to his hometown,
yeah,
to defend the title.
Well, I think either way, whether I sort of see this being almost like a Rocky moment. Rocky 1, you know, like where it's, you know, the champ is going for low hanging fruit and then underestimates him. I don't know if I see Erceg winning, but I see it being a war, and I also see. I think it's going to go the distance, but I think it's going to be so much more of a fight than anyone is expecting. And I think I see Erceg giving Pantoja a really hard time, and maybe Pantoja winning on like a split or something like that. You know, one of those like controversial things where people like you get people in the comments going like, "Oh no, like Erceg won that," you know, like they got to do a rematch or something like that. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like maybe this is Rocky 1 and we might get a Rocky 2, but we have to see.
All right, let's go to Pantoja, right? He's the champ, 34 years old, so he's at that age, that age, you know, that everybody always talks about. Yeah, the statistic, right? 5-fight win streak, you know, 11-3 in the UFC. He's beaten Brandon Royval in his last fight. He won the title on a split decision against Brandon Moreno, beat Perez, choked him out, choked out Royval, you know, beat him twice. Manel Kape beat him by decision. His only losses are to kind of guys that can match his grappling, like Askarov. Yeah. He lost the decision to Askarov. He lost the decision to Figueiredo. Yeah. He lost the decision to Dustin Ortiz. These are all grappler-based guys, right? Yeah. Guys with good submissions, good scrambles.
Guys that can negate his grappling.
Yeah. And he lost to Oki Kubo on the Ultimate Fighter. And Oki Kubo is a grappler as well. If you know Ryzen, you know what I mean? You know who he is. And then, and then his other loss was to Jussier Formiga, who's also a grappler. So that's what I look at that too, you know what I mean? Pantoja is a great grappler. It's just like he gives guys opportunities.
I think, I think he definitely, I think if anyone gets finished, I think it's Pantoja.
Okay.
Because I think he'll get sloppy with the striking. Mm-hmm. Just because he is sloppy with the striking.
He's been sloppy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's like his style is sloppy for some reason, right?
His style is messy.
Yeah.
He is a man of chaos. Yeah. You're not called the cannibal if you're surgical.
No.
But for whatever reason, I see like I think if Erceg wins, it's probably by a stoppage. But I for whatever reason am leaning more towards Pantoja wins, but it's messy and like a split decision, and Erceg's stock just goes up because everyone's gonna go. People are either gonna go, oh man, like he like actually like really deserves to be at the top of that division, or what they go is they go, no man, he should have won that or something. You know what I mean?
I see it happening like this. I'm leaning towards Erceg, but I see it like this. You remember when Davidson Figueiredo defended the title against Alex Perez?
Yeah.
You remember how that narrative was? It's like Alex Perez, he's won a few, but maybe Figueiredo's taking on like the challenger that should probably be the challenger at that moment.
Low hanging fruit.
Yeah, the low hanging fruit type thing. I could see that happening in this scenario where he was right about it. He was right that, you know, he should have took this fight and get paid and defend the title, and it made it easy for him, right? So I think it could be an early finish for Pantoja, just because on experience and the level of type of training that he gets, probably because he's at an American top team where it's a survival to the death there, right? And Erceg, he has a great team as well, but it's comparing the type of training partners that you have is a little different, right? So maybe that will come into effect in the first couple of rounds, and Pantoja will be able to get a submission win against Erceg. But I also can see Erceg going in there and kind of just like fighting on the feet and maybe allowing Pantoja to get sloppier, more tired, and then he finishes the fight towards the end. But there's also a chance where Erceg cannot handle the storm, and he just stands there and tries to trade with Pantoja because he can't get him down, and then Pantoja wins the decision.
Yeah.
Right. But you know, those are the scenarios that I see. But I think that Erceg will be able to kind of weather the storm and then be able to win the fight later in the later rounds, maybe like third, fourth. You know, if it goes to fifth round, I think it'll be like we'll be entering the fifth round. Like, oh shit, that was a crazy fight.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I think that's what you're probably talking about.
That's
and it was
what
a
I'm
crazy
talking
close
about,
fight.
is that
like,
it's a crazy.
who won round 2? I don't know. Who won round 3?
That's-
I don't know. Right?
For whatever reason, that's what the crystal ball is saying in my head, is that we're gonna be sitting there going like, oh man, I don't even know who's going into the fifth winning this.
Yeah. There you go. That's the main event of UFC 301, and hopefully it's a great fight because man, I don't think they're gonna sell many pay-per-views. But we're not here to talk about pay-per-views. We're here to talk about